That's witchcraft, and I need to burn somebody.
Okay.
Ask about Illuminati, since the Charlie upbeat ducks. Is it Disney mind control? Is this MK Ultra Deluxe? Occult Disney, we go from real to real. Occult Disney, Bohemian Grove and no more real. Occult Disney, ask about Illuminati. Occult Disney, we teach occult to everybody. Occult Disney, the wish upon a star. Occult Disney, you know not to travel far. Oh, Occult Disney, the new brand Pinocchio. Yeah, yeah. Occult Disney, it's a boss overload. Occult Disney, please enjoy the show.
Hello, welcome to the Occult Disney podcast, where we go trompsing around all the landscapes to figure out all the secrets behind the mouse. This is Matt here. Over there, it's the Paranoid American. How's your tromping around?
We're going to be ripping flesh. We're going to be eating things live on screen. Things are going to be dying. This is going to be the most violent Disney movie, I think, to date. Animated.
So you're thinking Velociraptors then?
I mean, this is the closest we've got. This is the closest we've got to violence in a lot of Disney movies that I can remember seeing. And we're damn near a century deep at this point.
Yeah, I guess we aren't. Well, Pixar hasn't really done it either. Weirdly, the reviews for the Good Dinosaur and thing kind of pointed out how this was the Pixar movie most aimed at children at the time. Because if you think about it, all the others have, more for mom and dad. Not the Cars. Whoever said that wasn't thinking about Cars, but.
I mean, this is also one of the first times that kids are going to be introduced to a few other new concepts too. So I don't know. I don't know if this one is as kid friendly, but in terms of the storyline, it's basically only going to hold the attention of kids.
Yeah, I guess it's the simplicity of it. It is considered to be like Pixar's first, not major flop, but first flop. It's it's what those things where it's like, why are we even talking about these amounts of money? That's insane. Where we have
why do we remake Ice Age for more money?
Yeah. Like let's see, this one has 175 to 200 million. Where you're like, what, huh? And then the box office is just 332 million, which once you consider all the marketing and stuff, isn't that great for this one. So this is Pixar's first. People were waiting for Pixar to finally walk into the wall or something, I guess. Maybe Cars did it creatively, because I don't know. Is it still better in Cars 2? Cars 2 had more to look at, like in fun stuff, I think.
So I did a little bit of a deep dive on the story that I don't usually do. I usually leave it up to you. But there was one that I found about this movie that one of the biggest criticisms is because when it first was being promoted, before it went through a million different hands, because it's, it has to at this point.
It's another one of those.
Before it goes through all those different hands, the very first pitch was, what if dinosaurs still existed right now today in the modern world? And that's what the Good Dinosaur was supposed to be about. And somewhere along the path, just for reasons, it got occluded, and then that ends up just getting cut out. But then what they kept on it, though, was that, okay, well, what if dinosaurs lived until Homo sapiens started to become dominant? Because that's like a more intricate, like specific thing that there's a lot of teachers apparently they hate this movie because it teaches the incorrect timeline, but that's because they don't know the original plot of the movie was what if dinosaurs lived alongside humans. It's just that it started out with modern day and then they scaled it back to like caveman times, which is still wrong. It's still fantastical if you believe in the Rockefeller education system, right? But that's one of the reasons that it got such bad ratings, and also maybe why it feels juvenile, is that they started someplace and they ended up completely different.
You could, I mean, it's also just the concept. They do say the concept in the first 30 seconds. It's just, it's not a particularly great concept. It's kind of like, I've been doing all the Planet of the Apes stuff recently for podcasts and such, and that has the issue where, except for the live action TV show, humans can't talk. So you have your astronauts who can talk maybe to each other if you have more than a Charlton Heston. And that's all apes up and down, which is fine. That's why people like that series. You get to put a bunch of people in monkey suits. But yeah, making humans mute and dumb and dumb, in their head as well, doesn't make for very good cinema on its own, I think.
That's my favorite part of the movie, to be honest, is how the human is just basically a dog. I kind of like that part, although it also leans way deeper. Now, like, here's the pendulum where Walt starts Disney, and all the Disney stories are always about human intellect and like the human consciousness being bestowed on other inanimate things or just on other animals, right? And everyone appreciates it. Now the pendulum has swung all the way to the other side to where now humans are stupid dogs and stupid animals, and that it's really nature that has all the knowledge and it's not humans. I'm not saying like one is right or the other, but I'm definitely saying that these are on opposite sides of that scale in a very specific way.
The first hand this movie was in is Bob Peterson, who he co-directed Up. He did the voice for Roz for Monsters, both Monsters movies. So that's kind of fun. You gotta like that. Of course, he's the guy that got booted off of this. They're like, you can't figure out the third act. I'm like, well, what? Maybe that, if you have third act issues, you probably have first act issues. I think that's what Billy Wilder said. So he has a quote here. It's time to do a movie where you get to know the dinosaur. And it's really like to be a dinosaur and to be with a dinosaur. I'm like, nobody ever asked for that. I want the dinosaur to go roar, and maybe it's a T-Rex chasing the car like in Jurassic Park. That's great. That's what I want. I don't care what the dinosaur thinks in that case.
And plus, even the original premise of this movie already existed. There was, and I don't think it was Don Bluth. I can't remember who made it.
We're back, a dinosaur story.
There you go. We're back. Yeah.
I was going to shout that out, but you're in the middle of a sentence earlier.
Well, that's the same original premise. Yeah, was that dinosaurs made it to the modern times, and I wonder if someone at some point was just like, guys, are we remaking We're Back? And then maybe they just shifted focus a little bit and they said, okay, let's remake Ice Age instead of remaking We're Back.
Well, as discussed previously, they were perfectly fine remaking The Brave Little Toaster, and they did Toy Story, weren't they?
Oh, technically that was under the umbrella in a tangential way, right? If remaking Ice Age is direct competition at this point.
We're Back, A Dinosaur Story is animation from Amblin. So it's, presented by Steven Spielberg. I don't see his actual name attached to the credits here. Music by James Horner. Huh. It looks like this one's almost like a weird outlier. Like not even, yeah. Steven Spielberg's Amblimation Studio. There's one that. What did they make? Jeez. Okay. Speaking of weird,
maybe an episode for Cartoon Cabal. We'll have to do We're Back.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Amblimation, which it kind of feels nasty when you say it out loud. All it made is the second American Tail movie, Five O Goes West, We're Back, A Dinosaur Story, and something called Balto, and that's it. Is Balto a dog?
Oh,
Balto's a dog. He's a wolf.
Familiar.
Okay.
Yeah.
When you see the poster, you'll be, oh yeah, I see. I remember that. Although I thought he was gonna be a tan dog, and he's like a black and white wolf or something. So maybe he's a dire wolf.
Familiar. Yeah.
One of those things that you see in the poster but never saw, like Harrison Ford with his dog for his Call of the Wild movie, right? No one ever saw that, but everyone saw Harrison and his dog
until now,
right? Anyway, this one. It is the second time I saw it. This is one where we put it on, when it was available on home video in the house. I watched it once, and we never watched it again or thought about it again. So that was kind of the impression this one left on the household, at least.
Yeah, no one's demanding this one to go back on repeat.
Yeah, although I will say my daughter gets pretty good scores in school or whatever, but her lowest ones are the science maths ones. So I'll blame this movie for that.
Okay. This one, it is a return to the classic Disney proxy in a way. It's a little bit neutered, but it follows the beats. So you've got the kid that loses his dad and then gets lost. Or I guess it's a dinosaur. Maybe if it's a dinosaur, it doesn't matter as much. But
he's supposed to feel like a boy, right? That's the whole point of the dinosaur.
He's like a child, and he's like a runt, right? He can't seem to get things right. He's a little bit underdeveloped. He's the only one that he's seeing is not contributing to the family, essentially, and he's starting to feel bad about it. And at this point, his own, I guess he's trying to make up for this by trying to prove himself, gets himself into some trouble, ends up with his dad dying or getting swept away in a storm that you assume that he's dead, and then he himself gets lost the exact same way that his dad ended up getting lost the first time. So he's not the smartest dinosaur either. He's just a good dinosaur.
Oh yeah, it is the good dinosaur, not the smart dinosaur. That would have been a better movie. Although again, I enjoyed how dumb the protagonist Barry Barrington was in the Country Bears, you know. But he was outright dumb. So maybe Arlo should be outright dumb. I don't know.
Man, I'm not on my toes today. There was also a Nicktoons show that I want to say took place in Australia or something, and they had like a bunch of kind of like a Steve Irwin sort of character that had like red hair. But anyways, that one also had like a little monkey boy that acted like he was like a monkey essentially, and it reminded me so much of that same character in this movie, like the little kid that's the human dog.
Yeah, which is named Spot by Arlo. Something that kept running through my head is I know you're not the Avatar guy, but in the Avatar sequels, they have the character Spider, who's a kind of a feral boy who runs around with the Na'vi, son of Miles Quaritch. Of course, you gotta have these things connected. It's a small world, but yeah, that's kind of, I feel like that's where the more feral boy trope has kind of worked, because I think the second Avatar came out and people were like, I don't think we like Spider, but then that's the thing with Spider, you kind of do like Spider, and at the same time you kind of don't like Spider because he's mildly annoying.
This is a little different though, just because the feral children, you see them and there's almost pity just because like they could have been more, right? The potential is wasted, or at least currently, and they need to be trained or like, you know, housebroken essentially. But then in this movie, you're at the beginning of that journey. So it's almost like, and it's, you know, this is before they eat the mushrooms, right? This is before the stoned ape theory, so that humans are really just hairless apes running around without any real thoughts to themselves.
Yeah. Excuse me. I guess they also tried to make Arlo feel more like a boy as opposed to a dinosaur by, well, one, I'm like, are they trying to stealth make a Yoshi movie the whole time? Because I'm like, he's like 2% away from Yoshi.
I guess, yeah, I see that.
But going for the cute factor. So they got that. Meanwhile, the backgrounds are like insanely photorealistic, which to me, like having the characters be that cartoonish and the backgrounds being that photorealistic was a bit jarring to watch for me, at least. I don't know if that picked up on your eyes or whatever, but
it didn't. You know, I read that as one of the criticisms of it. It didn't really bug me that much because you needed to have some kind of contrast, and that was the only way to get the background to stand apart from the foreground. Like a traditional animation usually has those dynamics, but once you get into absolute photorealism, it's a lot harder to force contrast where it's not like existing, especially if so much of this stuff is just happening outside constantly. And it's not like you would just run in front of a big neon wall or like some other really cool shot that you can lean on in modern times, right? So every single background here did have to kind of have like leafy green or sky or dirt or mountain behind it.
Yeah, because we were impressed by, you know, the lighting in the background, everything for Monsters University. And I have a note here that says the Good Dinosaur took 10 times as much data space as Monsters University. So Monsters University is like 30 terabytes as it's 300 terabytes.
I'm also starting, this is complete conspiracy territory, but I almost feel that sometimes when Disney or any other studios spend an abnormal amount of time or budget rendering what seemingly just seems like, why the hell did they render Yosemite in such high detail, which is where all this takes place basically, like Jackson Hole and Yosemite, like that kind of area. Like, why spend all that time and money rendering this in detail? I don't know, maybe like the government contracted them to do it, and then they can just like slip this in as a secondary asset and then still make some extra money on the back end. Again, that's tinfoil hat material, but it's the only thing that makes sense because spending it so that it would look good for this movie doesn't make sense.
Well, there's also the reversing that the technology would, you know, probably be 10 years earlier in the military, and it's just kind of spilling out here in the Good Dinosaur where we can create these absolutely photoreal locations.
I guess a Disney military kind of potato if we're talking 2015 or whatever the hell movie this came out in.
Yeah, good point. But just you do start wondering like if how they would. I don't even know where I'm going with that, to be perfectly honest. So I'm going to bash my head into a brick wall now.
Well, we're talking about also the juvenile look against the realistic background. So I don't know. I didn't hate it, but I definitely felt like this could have been more cartoony, especially since the storyline was kind of juvenile. But again, they go through all the beats that you would expect in a Disney movie, but none of it really delivers.
No, in the first 5 minutes, I'm sitting there thinking like, gee, I kind of want to watch the dinosaur sitcom from the 90s because it's got the dinosaur family. It's a whole lot more fun, right?
That is, yeah, drastically. That's Jim Henson property, no? Or worked on.
Yeah. Henson. That might have been like right on the line. I don't know. If
that was
Jim
also
Henson died
Disney,
before or
right? That
after
was Disney Channel that came out.
Right, so that would have been right because remember, Henson signs his company with Disney and dies within the year. So I'm not quite sure where Dinosaurs fits on that timeline.
Yeah, don't sign your name over to. Don't sign your company over to Disney. It's not historically. I guess there's a curse.
Well, apparently that once he did it did stress him the hell out, and then when things start happening, it's kind of like Of course, they just took Muppet Vision out of the park, which is too bad. That was the final production of Jim Henson's. I don't know if Dinosaurs was before or after, but that was the last thing Henson himself actually made, which was that ride, the 4D Muppet Theater thing.
Which I think is gone now. They got rid of most of that alley, at least in Orlando. It's all
they got rid of it about 9 months ago. Apparently, the Muppets are going to get moved over and kick Aerosmith out of the Rock and Rolling Coaster. So you'll have like Dr. Teeth and his band now, which that doesn't sound that fun. And also, you're not going to have Steven Tyler making inappropriate hand gestures in the opening video anymore.
That one was one of the rides that was right outside my office. So whenever I talked about I could just get up and within like 5-10 minutes on a coaster, it was either Tower of Terror or it was Rock and Roller Coaster. Especially if one had a line, the other one didn't. So I've gone on Rock and Roller Coaster triple digits easily. I used to be able to recite the whole thing by heart. That one I'm gonna miss, man. I hope they don't change the roller coaster itself, but
the coaster will be the same. It's just going to have the Muppets instead of Aerosmith now.
Okay. I mean, honestly, I'm not totally against that. It doesn't need to be Aerosmith. The ride is probably cooler than the theme, but it is just interesting. Like you don't really see an Aerosmith ride anywhere else, especially not in 2025.
Especially one that has a clone in Paris. They had, or I don't know if they still have it or if that one changed too, but yeah.
It's still there though. And it was way better than Universal's rock and roller coaster, whatever the hell they called theirs, which they just also recently shut down.
Oh yeah. It was the one that went through like the backlot, and yeah, I don't remember the name of that.
It sucked. If you didn't go on it, you didn't miss anything.
It is a fun thought experiment though. If it was just like you're taking Aerosmith off and putting in a new band, what new band would you put onto the coaster? Keeping in mind, by new, it has to be a band that's at least like in their 50s by now, right?
Probably Green Day.
Green Day, okay. My first thought went to the Chili Peppers, but I feel like that's basically the same thought.
Chili Peppers is more on brand with Disney, especially with the lead singer's backstory.
Yeah. Okay, there we go. No Arlo there.
That one on your own. There's a rabbit hole for you.
Yeah. So let's see. Looking at this one, it is interesting that they're like, oh, the herbivore dinosaurs are going to have a farm, and then the carnivores are going to be ranchers, and they don't seem to know each other. That is a thing. I guess in the West, that's how it works out, because this is kind of like a stealth or not so stealth Western as well, right? Which halfway through I did write in my notes, oh my God, it's a Western.
A little bit, yeah. A little bit of a Western just because it's like agricultural age. And also, this one proves a theory that I don't know if I've explicitly stated. We're slowly building it here. But here's another theory in addition to the Disney proxy. But that Disney is okay with using bugs as an example of how you would torture, eat, hurt, consume, otherwise cannibalize, act predatory against. Bugs are on the table, and it's just from being a bug. I think this had come up in a previous one, and we were wondering, or I was wondering, is it the size of the bug? Is it like, what if it's a huge bug? Are you allowed to kill a huge bug? Like if it were Honey, I Shrunk the Kids? In this movie, I think we get an answer to that because we see Spot violently rip the head off of a big beetle, and the beetle is probably 10 times the size that he is. So here we've actually got, I think, the most violent act. I don't think we have ever seen a sentient being's head ripped off directly on screen, not off screen, and then like eaten. And this was, if you're trying to remember when the hell this happened, this is when Spot originally meets Arlo, and Spot's trying to figure out how to feed Arlo. So he's like, he keeps presenting him with all of this food that he eats, and one of those things he presents him with is a big beetle. And when he doesn't eat it, then he rips the head off and sees if he'll eat it then. Almost like the implication is that Spot knows the head is kind of scary and gross. So maybe if I rip the head off, then you'll eat it, and he doesn't.
I mean, to be fair, most children have probably seen this kind of violence already in real life on the preschool playground, right?
Or you
end up seeing a classmate rip a head off a beetle and eat a bug. That happens for 3 and 4 year olds.
I guess it's fair, man. Maybe there's some unwritten rule that once that escalates from bugs into mammals or other sentient beings that aren't bugs, that like they're crossing this cultural line, right? Because that's when you start pointing people out as future psychopaths, essentially, if that escalates beyond bugs and beyond worms. But here we've got Disney just reinforcing that line, maybe.
Yeah. It is, and this does have the Disney proxy, as we mentioned, but it's in such a weird version. One, it's like the dad is like death marching him and his son to a Disney proxy. You're just like, oh, I see where this is going, like 2 minutes before this happens, you know? So there's that. Dad tries to preempt death march. Death comes to us all. That's them eating the mushies, right? That was a fantastic scene. Obviously, my favorite scene in the movie. But
again, this might be the only direct reference to taking psychedelic. You've got Dumbo, which, like, was he drunk?
It's vague what they're drinking. Yeah,
what that was. If it was a psychedelic, you wouldn't be drinking that much. But then again, they're elephants. Maybe this was a reference to Dr. Jolly West. Who knows? But this one, they actually eat some kind of psychedelic plants or herbs or whatever, and you see him kind of have like a minor little trip out sequence, which felt somewhat out of place because I don't know, they're making inebriation seem fun again outside of Dumbo.
Well, again, this is such a kind of Frankenstein monster of a movie because we talked about Inside Out, goes through a few different hands, still comes out pretty well, where this one kind of like falls on its face. So, and they came out, it's the first time 2 Pixar movies came out in the same year. So I feel like maybe, it's just like you can only put so much energy into one direction, and it all went towards Inside Out instead of this one.
This one also, it shows I want to say pterodactyls. I didn't look up what they actually are. I don't know if they were exactly pterodactyl. Flying
I spent like 3 minutes trying to spell pterodactyl when I was writing my notes.
Okay, well, so let's just call them pterodactyls, but it shows them eating mammals. So it shows them actually eating like little furry woodland creatures, and then they get their eye on Spot. And that's kind of what drives most of the plot, is that Arlo sees himself as a protector of Spot because he's this big dinosaur protecting him from a whole bunch of other littler dinosaurs that will definitely eat Spot.
Right. And then I guess Spot is kind of funny, though, because it's usually you have the human child that is their father is killed by nature or whatever. Nature basically being the villain here. Maybe that's why it's okay to rip heads off of bugs, because nature's the villain here. But when we do, I guess Spot is technically the proxy. So it's like a reverse thing where the cute thing that shows up when at his lowest moment is now the human child instead. So
honestly, it's not a bad plot, because there was also the point in the movie when Arlo's trying to get to his dad and he's got Spot with him and he sees another human and he realizes, oh, that's another Spot. But then he doesn't let Spot go to the human. He makes him go with him down to find wherever the dinosaurs are at. So Arlo himself, the protagonist, which is going through his own Disney proxy, causes a Disney proxy to his own sidekick, which is usually, I don't know. It's too convoluted to.
They're proxying each
work.
other.
They're proxy, yeah. Never proxy, never cross the proxies. But also, it would work so much better if this weren't directed to such a young audience, and it kind of like stops. That's also why the psychedelic reference kind of feels so out of place, because you're looking around, you're like, this movie's made to babysit like a 7-year-old. Like, what are you doing? Who's this for?
Yeah. Oh, excuse me. It's Spot and Yoshi. I can't remember. Is Arlo doing the mushrooms? I was about to say it because if it's him and Dad doing them before Dad dies, that would suggest that maybe he had died of psychedelic hijinks, which I don't think we want to make that the case in this movie.
Yeah, no, it's Arlo and Spot. They're trying to forage for food of some kind, and they eat magic somethings.
Yeah. Well, they just tripped in a Disney movie. You know, that was my note. But hey,
yeah. For first or second, I think that's it though, right? Dumbo and then this.
Yeah, I mean, a kid might be asked their parents, "Hey, why did things get weird after I ate the mushroom?" And now the parent has to explain it. Except that nobody saw this movie, so they don't. So that's not true. A few people saw this movie.
It probably didn't help. Yeah, and then there is a Jurassic Park Velociraptor element to this one, and they call them Wrestlers. And the Wrestlers, this is where you were like, oh boy, this turned into a Western, because they're there to kind of herd cattle a little bit, and they see Spot and they see Arlo as trespassers, and then it kind of turns into Deliverance a little bit. It's like, what do we do with them trespassers? Like, he just gets like a real like thick Southern drawl, and you realize everything go, yeah, make him squeal like a pig.
Yeah. Hey, I've gone rafting down that river. But
God,
that stuff didn't happen. But I do remember
that area. I would be setting up like a little Bluetooth speaker to just play the little dun.
And now I can't hear it over that. Can't hear it over those rapids, man.
Yeah, I guess not.
I remember we were like 13 or something. There was this like kind of like, she wasn't meek, but a very kind of soft-spoken lady was our guide down the river. But when we were hitting the major rapids, she started screaming, "Grow, you little shits!" I mean, it was the time where you really need to be rowing. So it was like, oh, she just got emphatic.
I bet you took it more serious.
I was taking it reasonably serious. Hey, I've done canoes down whitewater. I wouldn't try that today. I had to train to do that, but that's fun.
Well, not for a dinosaur though. But they both survive in this one. We do see that, which isn't this. This is like the most common trope in all movies where there's a dinosaur and a kid, is that at some point they're going to go over a freaking waterfall. Even without the kid, what was the previous dinosaur movie that we saw that was a flop, that was 3D animated?
Dinosaur.
Dinosaur also had that same exact premise where like a dinosaur or an egg falls over a waterfall. Oh my God, will it survive? I don't know. I guess when you're limited to nature, like literal nature being the enemy for a lot of this, for some reason, a waterfall just floats to the top of the list of ways that they want to animate that.
The new Peter Pan ride at Disney Seas, and it opened about a year and a half ago. That has it as well, where you go over a waterfall in that ride. Just throwing that out there for funsies.
I mean, it makes sense because of the horizon aspect. Like anything could be over the side of that waterfall, so it makes it like an alluring. And it also acts as like that ticking time mechanic, right? Where you've got to do something. You've got to act right now, because if you don't do anything, then you're dead. So it kind of like puts this stress in motion.
This is also, it's that particular ride's described one of those screen and some practical set combo, like the Spider-Man ride in Florida, I think.
And I think it was all fake dinosaurs in the movie, by the way. They didn't have any real dinosaurs.
No actual dinosaurs were harmed in the making of this movie. Beetle's another matter. That beetle is not animated. That was a real beetle.
There was a real beetle. There was a line in here. I'm trying to remember who said it. I just wrote the line down, but the line, again, this is a Disney movie, a slightly juvenile skewing Disney movie. I drowned that croc in my own blood. And I just remember thinking, I was already had the note that this might be the most violent Disney movie ever. And then that line came up, and I feel like it solidifies it for me. if we go back and rewatch any other Disney movie, this one has the most violence and references to murder and eating other creatures and drowning things in blood. And again, it's the most forgettable of the Disney movies. So maybe they just they snuck it all in here to get the quota out. They were like, we can't release another movie without talking about blood sacrifice and drowning. So here it is. Okay, on to the next.
Well, lost that train of thought again. Brains exploding again. Where were we? Nature. There we go. Nature is the villain here. Earlier versions of the movie did have more. I mean, we got the creepy pterodactyls that want to eat Spot and stuff, but there's not a straight up antagonist in this movie. It's nature, right? All the problems are caused by nature. Dad dies because of nature. Nature's violent. That's why we can put all this violent stuff in here.
It would have been
lightning, violent.
Humans would have been the interesting swing of that.
Oh, the humans are hunting the dinosaurs down?
Yeah, you kind of get the inverse of Fern Gully, because Fern Gully was the humans were killing these little things they didn't know about. So this would be they're killing the big things, but they don't know that they're good big things. Although I think it would still kill you.
The humans have to get a little bit smarter. The sequel is 10 years down the line. The only good dinosaur is a dead dinosaur. Maybe this movie is Stoned Ape Theory, because this shows Spot eating the mushroom. So maybe that sets in motion we don't know, but after Spot goes and sees the rest of his family, he starts inventing math and wheels and stuff. Yeah, I mean he's looking for those mushrooms again. Although you got to be careful looking for the mushrooms in a forest. You might eat the ones that kill you as well. So got to be if you're doing mitochondria, what is it called? That's the wrong term. Mycology. What's the study of mushrooms?
There you go.
Mycology. There we go. Yeah, you gotta know that stuff if you're going to be plucking mushrooms out.
Also, speaking of things that can kill you, when we hear Arlo's plan, he's talking to Spot, and he's like, I have to go home. I want to go home and see my family again. And immediately I start going back through my memory of every single kids animated movie about dinosaurs. Whenever they go back to see their parents, it's never good. It's always they end up in a big graveyard. So I kind of made that note of, if you're in a Disney movie and you're a dinosaur, you probably don't want to go back home. Although in this one, it pans out, right?
Yeah, it works out in the end. He just goes home, right? He makes his mark on the silo, which I don't know how they built that because they don't have hands, but whatever.
Which is it stands out too of another reason why it feels a little bit juvenile is just that everything works out for this dinosaur. He finds his way back home. Spot goes and finds his own little family, and everyone lived happily ever after. But they don't, right? Because they all die.
Yeah, Dad's dead, right? So that's even when he gets home, it's still a bit of a bummer.
But also, all these dinosaurs are on borrowed time, because even a kid, the dinosaur might be one of the easier ways to ease kids into the concept of death, just because they are so foreign and abstract and removed that when you're talking about the dinosaurs aren't here anymore, honey, that's probably way easier than easing it into and your goldfish isn't here anymore, honey. You know what I mean? There's a more direct connection, especially when it gets into like a personal connection. So the role of dinosaurs with kids is to teach them about death. And in this one, the Disney doesn't really exploit that fact. The dad dies, but that's just any Disney movie. Dad dies in every Disney movie.
Yeah. Well, this one does kind of Arlo getting programmed with xenophobia because everywhere except for his hobbit hole of a home sucks. He'll never leave again.
They make, that's a good point. And they make another point too in this kind of world that every different dinosaur has isolated itself into these little pockets. They don't really coexist so much. So he would be with his own kind and the pterodactyls are with their own kind. And there's not a lot of intersection between those.
They don't seem to know about each other. Every new dinosaur community he runs across is just brand new to him. I mean, he has a young dinosaur, but I don't think the parents would know either because they all just hang out as isolationists. Now it is I guess that is part of the Western vibe though, because people out west they are quite far away from anyone else, and are probably not going to know. I don't know. I need to watch some more, not Driftwood, Deadwood, whatever. Find out how things worked in the Old West. Except that's a TV show, so it's probably wrong.
That's the closest we're going to get, though.
Yeah. Once this movie goes like full Western, I do start making notes in here like, oh no, I just spent another 10 minutes gear talking guitars with AI. So I got a little distracted here and there, but I hate to say I did slog through the movie. I started watching it like Friday night because I did remember it being a little dull. So I did like the first 30 minutes there and then 20 minutes the next night. And then I finished it last night, but was like definitely getting distracted. Like this movie had trouble holding my attention.
I didn't completely hate this one. It didn't make like my bottom of the list or anything.
No, it's not It's not Shakespeare. It's not Shakespeare bad, which of course on the Occult Disney podcast means Romeo and Juliet and Strange Magic. It's Shakespeare bad. That's got to be. That's some terminology for this podcast, isn't it?
Anytime Disney does Shakespeare, that ends up bad. But yeah, it doesn't hit the bottom of the list. But yeah, I mean, it's not because they didn't go all the way on so many of the premises, and also they didn't really utilize the same like fantastical thinking of almost every other Pixar movie that came before this one. The only thing fantastic is just that dinosaurs and humans both live at the same time, and dinosaurs can talk, and that's kind of where it ends. There's not like a lot of other magic or mystical or anything beyond just that, and then they're both fighting nature.
Well, the mushrooms. There's the mushrooms.
Again, maybe that's a point for this movie that it just introduces kids to mushrooms a little bit earlier, and also
when he has a vision of his father later, he's just having a flashback.
The ghost dad. There's a ghost dad reference in here because thinks that he sees his dad, and his dad's ignoring him, and then he realizes he comes to some kind of revelation, and then the dad is like, "That's it, son." So he's kind of like a mentor ghost dad that lives in his head. It feels like Arlo's gonna have problems later on.
Oh, my note is Arlo just MK'd himself.
Yeah.
So, and then my next note is, I don't know. I'm kind of fine if we just watch Arlo and the kid die. I've been programmed with the violence of nature by that point. It's like, let's just get over it.
But when he sees his dad, it's after Spot gets stolen by the pterodactyls, and then he's kind of like, oh God, what do I do? And then that's when he sees the dad, and then the last thing the dad says is like, now go get that critter. And my first thought was that if those pterodactyls have had Spot for this whole time that he goes on a spirit journey and he talks to his dad and all this, there's no way those things were about to rip his head off. You know what I mean? But we go back to Spot and we can see somehow Spot like is hiding in a tree and he's survived this whole time. So yeah, I mean, I guess you don't want to kill the child too quickly in a Disney movie.
No. I know they were going for real life locations and things, but hey, I live around a bunch of mountains. I think I can recognize one mountain from another. I'm like, are they prominently featuring the same mountain that Paramount uses for their logo in this movie? Because it seemed like they were. Like the opening shot of Indiana Jones sort of thing, you know?
I don't know. I didn't know. I mean, a mountain's a mountain unless it's got like something special to it.
Okay, that's the special that caught my eye. I was like, is this either is the same mountain that Paramount uses for a logo, or is so similar? I just wonder if it's some weird bit of corporate sniping or something, you know? Like, haha, we're using your mountain.
Maybe. I mean, it was supposed to be Jackson Valley and the Tetons, and that was where this was essentially supposed to be taking place. It's where all the art team like went and they did like little vacations or whatever, research, but they all did like trips to this area in order to get inspiration for this. So I don't know, maybe there was a military operation going on in that area at the time.
Yeah, maybe they're building their mountains out of mashed potatoes or something. I don't know, and then going to secret government sites. That's why I'd like to think. This movie at the very end has another kind of magic circle reference, which is interesting since the last movie we did also had that in was it in Inside Out? Yeah. 2 Pixar movies in a row have kind of this like magic circle concept a little bit.
What was the magic circle?
At the end, it was just doing it around the family once he's reunited with the family. Oh,
you're totally right. Yeah, I didn't even pick up on that because
2 movies in a row.
The way that Arlo and Spot communicate at the very beginning of the movie is they make like little makeshift dioramas of their family and put a circle around it to indicate like everything in the circle is my family. And at the end of the movie, Arlo draws a circle around Spot with the actual human family as his way of being like, go be with your own. I'm a xenophobic. Get the hell out of here. Go back to your own country. And then he goes back with his own kind. And so I guess this movie is just teaching xenophobia and psychedelics.
What an interesting combination. You think one would cancel out the other?
No. I mean, because the life experience outweighed the temporary psychedelic experience.
Okay, there we go. Yeah, and that's pretty much what I wrote for my notes for the most part here. Near the end, it just starts talking. It starts listing guitar stats and stuff. So because I started doing that,
I can go a little bit deeper. The movie itself, there it is. You know, we've already kind of summarized the whole thing, right? Dinosaur gets lost. Dinosaur finds a lost human. Dinosaur sends human with other humans that it found, and then Dinosaur goes back home. The end. I mean, I don't think we're missing any huge beats in there. But
some Western stuff thrown in the middle because kids love Westerns.
I guess, but it's just there to like stitch the different parts together. There's really no bearing on the theme outside of these main beats. But it was making me want to dig deeper of like, okay, there's how much money went into this? How many hundreds of millions of dollars went into this? It's not like they just went there with no occultism. So I broke out the new tools that we've been finding, which is what the Arn Thompson Uther Index. And there's another one too that I didn't know about called the Thompson Motif Index. So the Arn Thompson Uther Index, this is the cataloging of all the main major folklore motifs and themes.
There's if people want the deep dive. I think you brought it up when we did Tangled for the full description.
I've done it. I've tried to do it on a couple if I remember it, and there's something obvious that stands out.
Princess and the Frog, I think, is maybe where it also came up. Yeah, it definitely worked for the princess movies, you know? So you'll be bringing out soon for Moana, probably.
So the Arn Thompson Uther Index is referred to the ATU, Arn Thompson Uther. So ATU 301 is just a general hero's journey. That's basically what Arlo's on. That's kind of like the default catch-all. If you can't figure out what the movie's about, and it's probably some kind of hero's journey. But then there's also some more specific ones. The ATU 502 is called Wild Man as a Helper. And this is a story in which the protagonist is lost or is trying to find their way through some sort of a dilemma, and a feral or a wild man ends up being their sidekick and ends up being the one that reconnects them with nature in some way or reconnects them in a way that helps them get over this goal. This is like classic textbook Wild Man as Helper ATU 502. You should bring that up any kind of party that comes up. Like, oh. But then there's this other index that gets even more detailed that I just discovered. And this is just the Thompson motif. So the Arn Thompson Uther, I think, is like a more specialized / generalized one. And then the Thompson motif gets into the weeds. But there's 4. One is the Helpful Animal Companion, which is B510. Then there's F761. This is Landscape as a Moral Trial Ground, which essentially is once you put somebody out into nature, how do they react? Do they help other creatures that are in distress? Do they harm them? Like that nature itself ends up being a proving ground for whether or not you have morality outside of society or some other system imposing it on you. And then there's also one called S31, which is the loss of a parent for the catalyst of growth, which I think that's the Disney proxy, right? That's essentially one of the main elements into the Disney proxy. Well, now we've got like an official S31 is one of the ingredients. It's like a vial when they made the Disney proxy that they dumped into the little pot. It said S31 on the side.
You mentioned also the hero's journey, right? Which kind of works with, because I do think this is a very good template for Disney proxy. Just if you need to explain it to someone, you know, look at the Good Dinosaur. There's nothing else to think about when you're watching the movie, right?
You'll forget. It's not a great reference. The name sounds so familiar. What happened?
But I guess something I'm thinking about with most Disney proxies is there's never going back. Like Star Wars or Spider-Man, they always get to have the refusal of the call. And the Disney proxy almost never includes the refusal of the call. Luke Skywalker gets a moment where he might go home. Of course, it's good he didn't, or he would have turned into a charred skeleton. Spider-Man and Spider-Man 2, the Sam Raimi ones, he stops for a while, right? And has to get back.
Classic maybe, but I actually had a specific note we didn't get into when we did Toy Story 4. And Toy Story 4 was Woody was like, no, we can't go to school. We can't go in the backpack. Even though that was the catalyst he needed to break from his old god, because the new god was not going to serve the same thing that Andy was. So I think that was a direct refusal of the call. And he ends up getting swept along anyway. I guess I'm just proving your point that he didn't.
Yeah, because Woody's never been Disney proxied. He starts off as a grown-ass cowboy.
He didn't have the agency in order to say no and then do it on his own. He said no, but then it happened to him regardless.
And also, it shows 15 years prior, he says no to Bo Peep to just go at that time, right? So second time, he doesn't make the same mistake twice, I guess is what Toy Story 4 does. But Arlo and the Good Dinosaur, I mean, he never gets a choice about anything. I don't remember what number and letter I'm going to say at a party, but he's thrown directly into nature and has to prove his moral fiber. There's no refusing the call. The only way to refuse the call is to die.
Classic F761.
Yeah. But yeah, in the case of most Disney proxy characters, laying down and dying would be the only way to refuse the call. Alice just gives up in Wonderland. That's the only way it works.
Yeah, it's a good point. We need to rewatch all movies again now and see who lays down and dies versus answering the call.
Let's see. Oh, Wizard of Oz. That's obviously we've done some Oz, but not the MGM one. But that's kind of the poppy field. Like, okay, I mean those are also heroin, but just they're kind of laying down and die is what they're supposed to do in that scene.
Okay, yeah. So if you do heroin, I guess that's it would like the fentanyl would be the modern version of that.
Yeah. So I don't think we've seen fentanyl in a Disney movie yet.
On a long enough timeline, it only makes sense that you
would. So did you have anything else you wanted to throw out on that index today?
Yes. Well, not in the index, but here one parting occult thought is that if we take this serious, right? If you were a Good Dinosaur fundamentalist, whatever that might mean, but if you were a fundamentalist, and this is the first wild man spot I'm talking about, wild man psychedelic taking origin of the human species, which more or less is kind of what he represents, right? Because he is currently in this base state before human consciousness sort of evolves in a way. Then he's kind of the original Enkidu, which is like the oldest Babylonian story, right? Where Enkidu was the original wild man. He was like the bull man that represents the bull. And there is the scene in which Spot proves himself is when they go Western wrestling and the dinosaurs look like bulls, or these two-horned dinosaur bull-looking things, right? So it's literally Enkidu, the bull man, the bull tamer, the wild man, is Spot in this movie. So I mean, if you want to look into it as deep as possible, but he was supposed to be the original wild man, and Spot clearly is also the original wild man.
Except that there is no human civilization. Where in the Enkidu thing, Gilgamesh, he's there to give Gilgamesh some bro time. He's already a king with a kingdom.
Enkidu starts as a slave, and then he becomes a friend of Gilgamesh, but then he becomes the enemy of Gilgamesh. It's like a whole, I mean, it's like hero's journey story thing. It's pretty epic. Yeah, you could say it's epic. He's also Enkidu is one of the only ones that doesn't get to become a god throughout the process of all this. Like, you still hear his name if you're into old ancient research, but he still like survives, but he's just a human, or at the very least, he is not a god. He's not at the level of Gilgamesh.
Well, he doesn't want any of that god crap, does he? He wouldn't want to be a god. I mean, that's his vibe.
So there you go. So Spot is Enkidu.
You got another thread. If I want to think of anything else, let's see. They have the very short version of 127 hours here, where Arlo gets trapped in the middle of nature. I thought that to me was like, oh, my first thought goes to James Franco stuck in his rock, right? So
it is. There's a lot of different like sad scenes in here that again, for some reason, you can do it with dinosaurs and bugs, but if any of these situations were a mammal of some kind, it gets a little bit harder to watch.
This should be the sad dinosaur. Another funny thing about this movie, just for production wise, it wasn't just the director that changed. Like the entire voice cast seems to have changed as this movie was under production.
That happened in the last one too, right? Where they pretty much had everything recorded, and then someone was like, let's change some things. And then they didn't bring back any of the original voices.
Yeah, so we had originally it was going to be John Lithgow, Francis McDormand, Neil Patrick Harris, Judy Greer, and Bill Hader. McDormand's still around, but everyone else is switched out for the actual movie. So instead we get Sam Elliott, Anna Paquin, Steve Zahn, Hank Azaria. I guess it just depends on like who's Jeffrey Wright. Okay, just who's available at the time. I don't know.
Hank Azaria can probably charge some pretty big bucks, though, right? That's like one of the main Simpson voice actors.
Yeah, he's Moe, he's Chief Wiggums, he's Superintendent Chalmers, he's the comic book guy, Professor Frink. Yeah. He doesn't do an actual Simpson, but he does like everybody else on that show.
He should have done Simpson voice in this movie.
Sure. Who was he voicing in this movie? I just saw his name was there. I think he just says like 3 lines. He is
Pterodactyl number 2.
Sorry, the name actually attributed to those birds is Ludodactylus, if I said that right. Okay. So when we were like,
I knew that there weren't actual pterodactyls. Whatever, dinosaurs aren't real, anyways.
Hey, my dinosaur phase was short, and when I was 5 years old, and most of the names have like changed since the mid '80s. They all have like different names now, I think.
And then they treat you like an idiot for actually remembering what you were taught originally and not keeping up with it. Because who the hell gets out of grade school and continues to keep up with dinosaur finding? I don't know.
Paleontologists?
No shade to like all the paleontologists out there. Whatever, that's cool. But I just mean like normal people. It's like once you learn about dinosaurs, they never become relevant again.
Yeah. Also, I had a short dinosaur phase, And hey, this is some Disney programming. When I was like 4 or 5, we went to the newly opened Epcot Center, and it was Space Geek from then on out, wasn't it? Dinosaurs are stupid.
Yeah, they're like milestones, man. You start with dinosaurs around the same time that like you want to be a cop and a fireman and an astronaut, but then you're like, ooh, astronaut, and then it turns into space. But all of it was just invented by NASA.
When I was 5, apparently I wanted to be a taxi driver because I'd seen the movie Taxi Driver. No, not because of that. It's because Kermit the Frog, when he loses his memory for a few moments and the Muppets take Manhattan, I think he becomes a taxi. No, he gets hit by a taxi. No, he works for an ad agency in there. I was a dumb kid. I got confused and thought he was a taxi driver, and I want to be like Kermit the Frog.
I'm just imagining Kermit the Frog just being like, "You talking to me?
Yeah.
You talking to me?
You talking to me? Nobody else here." I'm surprised they haven't done that. They probably have. There's probably a Muppet clip somewhere that has at least, Animal doing it or something.
If not, I mean, you can do it.
Hey, Disney needs to make some more Muppet stuff. I guess the thing with them and the Muppets, sorry, I'm like really focused on the Muppets today for some reason, but that's a case where it's like, who do you get to do the voices? Because all the guys that do the proper voices are dead or really old. So
let's not pretend like other people can't do the Kermit voice.
Kermit's never quite sounded right since Jim Henson died, and they still got to get Frank Oz for most of your Fozzie Bears and Miss Piggy. So
yeah, I don't know. I think we've seen effectively that a lot of voice actors, I'm not saying that anyone can do it, but whenever one of them falls out, there's usually a decent enough backup that everyone except for the most hardcore won't really tell the difference between the two. There's a few that I can think of, but none of them like ruin it.
I love fake Mickey Mouses. They have a guy that can do a good Mickey Mouse, and they use them, but like on theme park announcements and stuff, sometimes that must be a Mickey. It doesn't quite sound right.
The Mickey Mouse voice, for some reason, I feel like it doesn't qualify as an actual voice. I don't know.
Well, the guy who created it was not really a voice actor, was he?
Right. I feel like that is one that everybody could learn to do just as good as the original.
That's why I love the ones that don't work, which you will find in official Disney stuff sometimes, especially, direct to video or just like it's a screen for the theme park or something. Oh, wait, Mickey Mouse doesn't quite sound right. Those are the best ones. The bootleg Mickey Mouses. Mickey Mice. Okay. Muppets. Mickey Mouse. I guess it fits the Disney talk, but this is one where I was like, oh my God, we're 20 minutes in and I'm finished talking about the Good Dinosaur, basically.
And Enkidu.
I'd much rather talk about Enkidu, to be honest. That's much more interesting than the Good Dinosaur. It's just a kind of a bland film,
I think that if you go into it looking for the violence, it's interesting when you notice how many things that they show are like really incredibly violent compared to any other Disney movie before it. But then all of that mature things that are happening, like visceral reactions, is not backed up by any like advanced concepts or story building or anything like that. So yeah, I feel this one they were really trying to make it all visceral, and I think it gets lost in the realism. It almost would have stood out more if they kept up the same, like if they're still ripping the head of a bug off, but they rip it off in Pixar style, like Pixar blood comes out or Pixar guts, but not like realistic version of it.
Yeah, this is better. I think this is much better than the 2000 Dinosaur, a movie which hurt my eyes.
I feel like at least that movie, at the end of it, it was just like, what did I just watch? What did I just experience? I was like, I had so many questions. It was just as boring to get through ultimately, but at the end of it, it was like, that was weird. Like that was a little bit of a fever dream. This one ends and you're just like, okay, that's over. What did I have to do today? Like, let me go do laundry.
Well, like I said, it took me like an hour to watch the last 20 minutes of the film because I kept getting distracted, So, and I'm a grown dude. I'm supposed to be able to watch an hour and a half movie without getting too distracted. I can do that with other things. And yeah, it felt longer when I see that it's like an hour 34 or something. I'm like, no problem. But it did kind of drag. And
you feel every minute of it. Yeah.
I did feel every minute in the last part. And it's not because it's actively bad. Like, who's watching this? We're watching every theatrically released Disney movie, right? So obviously we're going to watch it. Who else is going to be watching The Good Dinosaur? Are you plopping your kids in front of this one? I mean, I guess it's the only thing in the the hotel little library of DVDs. You might grab it, but that's how this one gets watched now.
They shot themselves in the foot in too many ways for this one again. For some reason, educators are like, I'm not showing this to kids because dinosaurs and humans like this didn't live side by. If they had just emphasized it a little bit more, that this is an anomaly, this is like a fictional alternate timeline, they could have at least gotten teachers and educators on board, and then they would have showed it to kids. But if they're not on board, no one's watching this movie after they turn 8, I guess, because again, now they want to be an astronaut, they don't want to be a dinosaur anymore.
Exactly. I'm gonna do my little films and fills trick and actually look at a 10-star review for this. Also, what was really funny is when I opened Internet Movie Database, I got a giant image of Yoshi in my face. So for weird synchronicities.
It's because it's listening.
Well, also because there's the second animated Super Mario movie is coming out soon. I'm not quite sure when. That's what I don't know if we'll ever get around to that one, but that's one where my daughter wanted to watch it and noticed I just happened to buy on Blu-ray for cheap a few years ago, and that's when I didn't like walk out on it, like I had things to do, but that was a month ago and I never finished it, and I don't think I'm going to finish it. So.
Okay, I just realized you're talking about the 3D animated one, because I was like, 2D animated. There was a Super Mario Brothers animated show in the 90s.
TV show, yes.
We might have to pull a couple episodes of that one up at some point too.
And there's also a bizarre late 80s, early 90s kid show aired in LA where King Koopa's Playhouse or something. So
I haven't heard about that.
It's super obscure. You'll have trouble finding much data on it, but there's a little bit out there on it. It does exist. Let's see. I'm looking at some 10 stars. Say what you want about this film, but it's not as bad as Cars 2. Okay, that's not a 10-star review.
Yeah.
I loved it. I almost cried to this because it's so real how much fear affects someone. Arlo is a sympathetic character, and I loved him. He cared for Spot. I wish others loved it as much as I did. Okay, that has the thinking level about that is the plot of this film.
They let their emotions win. I did make a note when I was watching this that they play the right music at the right times. When there's a departing moment, when there's a sad moment, you can almost hear the solo piano approaching as something sad happens. So they do all of the things. So the fact that someone actually was brought to tears by this movie doesn't surprise me, because you've kind of been conditioned to go into that state when you hear that music and you see those colors.
And as I'm scrolling through, at least half of the reviews are just like, "Oh, it was so heartwarming. I cried so much." It's all
made me cry.
They hit the buttons and it worked.
Yeah.
So for me, I started looking up guitar reviews, but yeah, it did not.
If I catch myself getting feelings in a movie, whether I get angry at something or I get sad at something, I try and take like a moment and be like, what specifically just happened? Was it the music? Was it like the dialogue? What happened that I just had an emotional reaction? Because that's witchcraft and I need to burn somebody.
Okay, here's one over at Films and Filth. So that's my plug. I'll just keep saying that, where we talk about highly rated and lowly rated movies. We're currently just doing the Fast and the Furious movies like straight through. We just did Furious 7, the last Paul Walker one, and everyone was, yeah, we all got a little teary-eyed on the last scene there. They were just hitting those buttons. They're
driving
bro movies.
Each other, and they both give each other like a thumbs up or something.
And before that, they have like kind of like, they showed like just a few seconds of clips from all the movies, so you see like how he becomes part of Toretto's family and stuff. But it worked. I mean, I think I'm the one who likes these movies the least of the podcasters, probably, of doing it. All of us really got a little teary eyed. I'm like, these movies are stupid. We just watched Vin Diesel destroy a building by stomping on it. We just watched The Rock break out of his cast just because he didn't want to wear a cast anymore by flexing his arm. This is
yeah.
And now it's making me emotional. So, but that was witchcraft, wasn't it? I think the movie, they're entertaining, but they're dumb. But it's like, it's making me feel.
Exact moments you'll stop yourself like, I don't care about, like, no shade on Paul Walker and his family and his estate. Like, I don't care about Paul Walker. Why am I crying about Paul Walker? And same thing, like Arlo. Like, I don't care that he just pawned off his stupid ass little human dog thing to like a family that, let's be honest, as soon as Arlo's out of the picture, they ate Spot. There's no way that they're raising this new anyways. Like, none of that is really sad, or
the Spot gets them to eat mushrooms first.
But it's it's the fact that like they know how to play the music, and the music swells, and like just play with all the emotions at the same time. They can get you even if you don't care about it.
That's the Furious 7 thing. That's where that Charlie Puth song comes from. Now that's like shorthand if you want to make like a comedy, emotional moment. But that song's, I don't even like that song, but it's weaponized. Like, right? Sorry, I just did like the most South Park version of it anyway. But because I know if I sing on Zoom, or it's just it won't come through anyway. Maybe StreamYard doesn't do that. I don't know. Anyway, the song is weaponized, right? That's like a nuclear bomb of a heartstring puller song.
And speaking of, you didn't really mention the music in this movie. It wasn't really stand out.
It had
no
music.
Needle drops, though.
No needle drops. I mean, that would make, well, I guess DreamWorks would do it, wouldn't they? Who did the music for this? Michael Dana, Jeff Dana. People. They did Life of Pi, it seems. Boondock Saints. Okay, it's brothers, and I guess they collaborated, or maybe they worked different times. Maybe one got fired and they hired the other brother. I don't know. That seems to be how most of the roles in this worked.
There's actually more crossover between Boondock Saints and Disney, but I'll have to leave that for another time.
We'll leave that for another time. So, okay, my final review: The Good Dinosaur, the bad movie. That's a little harsh. The boring movie.
Boring movie. It's not in the top 20. It's not in the bottom 10. I'll put it that way.
No. When we do watch Inside Out, we're like, this goes straight into the top 15, doesn't it? It's like, yeah, it does, because the week before and the week after we watched, schlock. So,
and I think too, usually you can tell within the first 15 minutes easy if this thing is going to be good or not. And this one you can tell 15 minutes in, it's not making its way to like an all-time top. I'm sure there's some people out there that this is like their favorite movie, but they should all be on a list. And
they all cry too much.
Yeah. If you go back and you consider if you really like this movie or if it just effectively manipulated your emotions and you are so astounded by the fact that a movie can manipulate your emotions, then you give it credit. That's probably what happened.
Well, this is the case where it's the last movie that person watched, right? I'll always reference the Brian Wilson interview where like, what's your favorite movie? Or have you seen any movies recently? He's like, Norbit. What's your favorite movie? Norbit. A movie that no one ever says is their favorite movie, except for Brian Wilson, because he had just seen it. So that's a Good Dinosaur. If someone says it's their favorite movie, like I wouldn't put him on a list. I'd just be like, that's a bizarre answer. I'd assume they just watched it.
They could be on a list.
Okay, if it was Strange Magic from last week or a few weeks ago, yeah, that person goes on the list if they say that's their favorite movie. But I will not. The Good Dinosaur doesn't make the list-inducing movies for me. It could be different for you. That's fine. I think I already sprinkled my plugs throughout this podcast, so I won't bother. But if you want to throw out what you're up to.
I'll just do another plug for Cartoon Cabal. Right now we're going through Neon Genesis Evangelion. You have to say all three words at once, which is an anime from the 90s, and breaking down any kind of occult references. That one's got a lot of them. That one's actually kind of loaded with it. If you haven't been watching,
Get ready for human sacrifice. That's one for you.
and ancient angels and Nephilim and everything. It's all wrapped up into that. If you haven't been watching / listening to it, you should check that one out. And after we're done with Neon Genesis Evangelion, we're going to be doing a whole bunch of other animations and cartoons. So
you could watch with your family.
Well, maybe. So I mean,
some of them.
A word will slip through here and there. We do.
I'm
our
just
best.
saying, don't watch Neon Genesis Evangelion with your family. That's probably a bad call.
Unless your family's Japanese and you live in the 90s.
And you're eating dinner. Oh. Okay, I can say it here too. It was like the Easter Island thing, like where they didn't know how the Moai were moved around for years, right? And you and I like didn't know what time of day they would show Evangelion. Finally, I just asked my wife, "What was Evangelion on TV in the 90s?" She's like 6:30. So it was your dinner time show.
Dinner time, okay, yeah. So families were watching it over dinner.
East up on an angel and bugs that you rip the head off of.
Just buy something. Just buy something from Paranoid American. Just buy something. Just buy something from Paranoid American. Get some merch, buy some art. Click that link, add to cart. Say it back, need that print. Nod your head, give consent. Buy a comic, 3 or 4. Think this thought, I want more. Buy a sticker from the store. Think this thought, I want more. Just buy something. Just buy something from Paranoid American. Just buy something. Just buy something from Paranoid American.
Paranoid. Yo. I scribble my life away, driven to write the page. Will it enlighten your brain? Give you the flight, my plane. Paper the highs ablaze. Somewhat of an amazing feel when it's real to real. You will engage it. Your favorite, of course, the Lord of an arrangement. I gave you the proper results to hit the pavement. If they get emotional, hate Maybe a language, a game, how they playing it well without Lakers. Evade them, whatever the cost, they are the shapeshift. Snakes get decapitated, met is the apex. Execution of flame you out, nuclear bomb distributed at war, rather gruesome for eyes to see. Max them out, then I light my trees. Blow it off in the face, you're despising me for what though? Calculated and rather cutthroat. Paranoid American must be all the blunt smoke for real. Lord, give me a day away, vacate. They wait around to hate whatever they say. Man, it's not in the least bit. We get heavy rotate when a beat hits, so thank us, you're welcome. Fuck the niggas for real, you're welcome. They ain't never had a deal, you're welcome. Man, they lacking appeal, you're welcome. Yet they doing it still, you're welcome.